I've mentioned regularly that the intention is to reread the books in this room to make determinations about what to keep, what to donate, and this is the first time that I have read one of those books and then gone out and gotten another one. So book one, this is going to come up in a minute. Book one comes out in 2007 and it ends somewhere to be continued. So I did enjoy this enough that I jumped on eBay and bought volume 2. I did previously read this, and the first time I read it, didn't bother getting volume 2. But as I said, I jumped on eBay, grabbed volume 2, and this comes out in 2013. So there is a 6-year gap between these. And the really unfortunate part is, I'm going to spoil this real quick for you, is this ends the exact same way. So it is currently 2022. There's no sequel to this. I hope it's still pending because I did enjoy this. But let's talk about why. The Last Call is written and drawn by Vasilis Lolos, and this is some seriously high energy comics. So here, let me just try to find. I think it's more true in the second volume, but here's a pretty good example. So here we have, he has just chewed some bubble gum. His face has changed, or he's gotten this mask, and this is the sequence. He winds up going out through the top of this train. So it's a art style that just has a ton of energy to it. I'm very much a fan, but reading this feels like taking a step back through time, and not in the ordinary comic sense of reading something from the 80s or earlier, where it's a different, obviously, art, coloring, and even writing style. There was a period in the early 2000s where sort of anything felt possible, and maybe this is just me, and if anyone even watches this, feel free to comment below, but this sort of Zuda was going on, and then Tokyo Pop was starting to do original content instead of just translations, and both were competitions. There's this period where it felt like anything was possible in comics, and the new Asian material that was coming in was sort of a tide that was raising all boats. And looking back, it feels like comics have shrunk a bit. Everything's gone back to the way things were rather than the revolution coming in and changing everything. It's I don't know, it's a little sad. This feels like a sort of Sam Raimi energy era, and now we're in sort of a Pixar era, and there's nothing wrong with either one of those. It's just one is very different from the other. I feel like the original content that's being put out now is more aimed initially, it's more constructed as a commercial piece, and there's obviously nothing wrong with being commercial. It's businesses are in business to stay in business, otherwise we wouldn't get new material. But this feels like pure energy. I'm saying a lot of words without really talking about the book. I should talk about the book. So we get this guy and his friend. They start in what appears to be a pretty small town. The friend takes his father's car. That's Sam and Alec. They are joyriding when there's a light from the sky, and then they wind up in this room. And the room is actually on board a train. The train is eventually revealed to be a ghost train. I don't know if that is a Final Fantasy reference or not. But we get this tough-looking guy who's out looking for tickets. Neither one of them have tickets. They shouldn't be on this train. That sets off a chase. Alec gets caught and thrown out a window. So Sam is left alone on the train. The conductor gets distracted by something else, so Alec, or rather Sam, does not also get thrown out the train. But the rest of the issue is Sam trying to find his friend and discovering an incredibly strange cast of characters. There's a sense of scale of the train. So we got some weirdness going on there in the background. We got this scaly looking guy. And even this relatively normal looking woman has some extra teeth. So the issue is, the first volume really is Sam trying to find his friend. It's borderline horror, but really it's, I don't even know how to describe it. It's not misadventures. It's Sam pinballing from one crazy thing to the next. And I showed off this sequence earlier. So he winds up getting some bubblegum from this woman. When he chews that bubblegum, that's when we get this scene where he goes out shooting through the top of the train. There is this guy who is pure shadow. And there's a murder on the train. There's a better shot of the train. There's a lot going on here, and also simultaneously very little is happening. So this is just madness from pretty much start to finish. Things continue in volume 2 because this is Alec. This is Sam's friend. He has aged up since being kicked off the train. So they meet at the end of volume 2. And this book starts with an explanation of what has been happening to him in the intervening years, even though a couple of hours at most have happened. For Sam, Alec has experienced years. He's become a cop. He winds up back on the train. And they're back to investigating murder. The art in this is great. And I guess that's what multiple years granted him the time to do. We get some good sequences like this too. A lot of inventive lettering, which I like. Good stuff here too. This, as I said, is pure energy. The story is interesting. I would tentatively recommend this for anyone that is looking for something outside the norm. This is definitely that. It's just there is no conclusion to the story yet, and it has been 9 years currently since volume 2 has come out. I don't know whether or not this will ever be concluded. I hope it is, because I do enjoy it, and I am going to keep this, not donate it. But yeah, it's a tentative recommendation. So this certainly won't be for everyone specifically because there is no conclusion, but yeah, I think it's great. I enjoyed both. I'm glad that I bought volume 2 after reading volume 1, and I'm glad that I reread this because I had read this originally, and then in the rereading I'd forgotten huge chunks of it. I remembered the train predominantly and had forgotten the whole opening sequence with the car and getting abducted, basically. And then I forgot that his friend shows up at the end. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I know that a subset of you will enjoy it as well. It just needs to find its audience, and I feel like this era of creativity has passed, which I feel sad about. That makes me sad. I probably haven't expressed any of these thoughts well enough, but I did the best that I could. Again, if you feel like commenting, do that below. We can continue the discussion where I can butcher some more words.